Welcome to Bay Rats and Buoys Season 2 with your host, Captain Gage.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Bay Rats and Buoys. I'm your host, Captain Gage. This is episode number 55 from the studio, brought to you in part by Nautical School of Maritime Licensing. Get your captain's license in 9 days. Trade the office for open water. Get your OUPV 6-pack license and start carrying paying passengers for fishing charters, sightseeing tours, island shuttles, and much more. Easy living, real income, and captain your career. Visit nauticalschool.com. There's no better time of the year, guys, than right now to make your plans to get into the class to obtain your captain's license. This is the best time of the year for that. I will post the dates right here on the screen for you guys to check it out. I'll also put it in the description of the YouTube video with a link to nauticalschool.com so you guys can check it out. What's up, guys? We gave away the raffle last week. I'm sorry I made you wait an extra week for it. We wanted to give more people a chance to sign up. More people did sign up. And, of course, Eric Hernandez was the winner. He picked up the rod at high hook and used it the next day and crushed it with his buddies on the 42-foot boat. And they absolutely murdered the blackfish. They had a great day. So it was good to hear. It was put to good use immediately, and it couldn't happen to a better person. He's a great guy. And I was hoping, truthfully, one of the girls was going to win it. And I have no say in who wins it. I hit the tap to spin, and it spins. In fact, I got back into my slip, and Patrick, he's in a few slips away from me. His name was the name just below Eric, so it actually looked like it was stopping on Patrick's name. And he said he lost by a millimeter. And he said his wife said to him, yeah, you need another rod like you need a hole in the head. And it's so true. That's why I was rooting for the girls to win, because they probably could use the rod more than me, Eric, and Ed Munoz and all the guys that entered, because we probably have a serious rod and reel and tackle addiction, where the women probably have more of a shoe and bag addiction. So they probably have more shoes than me, and I probably have more rods than them. So that was the reason for that. So anyway, I'm glad Eric won. I'm glad we had a cool raffle. It was a lot of fun to do. It really was. We're going to start raffling stuff off every month into the wintertime, and we'll have some cool giveaways to build it up and have some fun, guys. Again, January, we're going to start that Bay Rats and Buoys Fishing Club. Super excited about that. Can't wait to launch that so we could challenge other clubs and be in all these different tournaments come the springtime, because we're going to start off with a bang. We really are. We're going to close out the season hard. We got some crappy weather coming our way thanks to Melissa. I hope this rain disappears for Halloween. I know they're probably going to have high winds. Tomorrow it's going to be a little windy. I mean, it's blowing 30-plus out there right now. And, prayers to everybody in Jamaica. There has been loss of life. That hit Jamaica as a Category 5, winds up to 195 miles an hour. I can't even imagine what that's like. But when it crossed Jamaica, it did die down as it made its way to Cuba. It hit landfall in Cuba at Category 3, died to a Category 2 for a little bit, and then it's going up to it's like 430 miles west-southwest of Bermuda right now. And the wind speed died down to just over 100 miles an hour. The ground speed for that hurricane, it's traveling at like 30 miles an hour. Some of us other captains were following and tracking some of the ships that are out there, because you can't even imagine being caught in a hurricane like that out at sea when you can't outrun it. I mean, the thing's moving 30 miles an hour. It's moving into your path. You either have to change course and, totally deviate away from it, or you get stuck in that. And, we all saw the perfect storm. And you know what happens when you get in those big, massive waves, 50, 60-foot waves. That's got to be insane. So I don't wish that on anybody. So prayers go out to everybody that is in the path of Melissa. Not a fun hurricane for anyone, that's for sure. However, back to Long Island. Fishing has been lights out. It really has. This black season, it's been incredible. Gene reached out to me. He said he spent 6 hours on the water, and within 6 hours he had, I think it was 15 keeper togs. He put in his time, but he was catching keeper tog. Corey just caught a keeper tog from a dock yesterday. Sent it over. It was like 19 inches. It was like a 5-pound tog sitting under the dock. And they're all over the place, guys. So get out there and drop your green crab and catch yourself some, your Asian crab, your green crab, whatever you use, and catch yourself some tog. It's no better time than right now to get on some monster tog. They are, and, guys are moving out into deeper water to get them too, So you can get them in 50 feet. I was saying to people, stay within 30, stay within 30 feet. That was a good depth right now. And pull them out of the caves. You don't always want to get on the rocks. It's good to be between a good rock structure. And, it's easier said than done. You have spot locks. It's a lot easier to get in there and move around a little bit as opposed to guys that drop anchor, maybe drop 2 anchors to position themselves the way they want in between the rocks, like Howie and Rob do on the regulator or the pursuit. But if you drop 1 anchor, you can adjust by, pulling yourself in a little closer or letting some line out. And if you're not getting anything, you're getting all shorts, move. Make a move. Don't sit there all day. Because it's been a great tog season so far. Now, this last weekend, we went out for the bass. We got on some nice bass. It was a ton of fun, too, because we had a northeast wind. It was a little choppy out there. Everybody and their mother was running across the Connecticut. And we had a bass charter, so the charter that came out specifically wanted to catch striped bass. So, me and Corey have no problem with that. We absolutely love that this time of the year. And we went out and took a look in our area just because we had been prospecting every day and following the birds and seeing where they're going and what's going on. And we didn't see much happening in our area. We didn't see a lot of fish. We're not always jumping into our back bays in the area. Me and him like to get out of our area because we fish so many other areas, and we like to take our charters on some trips. We don't waste a lot of time. The boat moves, the boat boogies, and we can make it around somewhere in 20 minutes, and we did. And when I tell you, you could have walked across the bunker. They were all peanuts. I got good video here I'm going to show you. And we were matching the hatch on 1 rod. 1 rod was throwing out a swim shad that was matching the same exact size. That swim shad did nothing but snag bunker. I'm not lying when I say that. I swear to you. It was doing nothing but snagging these bunker. I'll tell you what was crushing it. I've told you to go to High Hook and buy them. I've shown them to you on the shelf. I've shown you where they are. Shown you what colors, what hooks we use. And the NLBN 5-inch. And Corey was adamant about using it, and he was 100% right. I agreed with him the whole time. The 5-inch NLBN was crushing it. From the first couple of casts, we pulled up. There was another boat in front of us. You saw somebody standing on the bow, and I knew they weren't picking up a pickup stick in the mooring field. The cormorants were everywhere, and the birds were working. And, of course, first cast of 2, we had a bass on the NLBN. And, they fished to 28 inches. There were some other big fish that they did drop. That I'm sure if it was just me and Corey fishing, I'm sure we could have hooked into some bigger stuff. Because technique does play a role in this, And we educate and teach people the whole time that they're there. We're trying to make them better fishermen. And it's not easy when you're in a running gun type mode with other boats around, getting yourself positioned with 4 people on the boat fishing. So usually most charters are jigging them, but we were underhand casting those NLBNs, and we were absolutely crushing it. Now, Greg, you sent the funniest text to me, and Tuesday night, this past Tuesday, it's Thursday. The podcast will be up by 6 o'clock today, as promised on the Thursdays. I did say this time of the year I may get it done on Friday, but because of this inclement weather, I am not out there towing anybody today, and I'm grateful to be in the studio. But Tuesday night, I host an event once a month at Oheka Castle called an executive networking event. Okay, you may see it on social media. If you do and you want to get involved and you want to come to the castle, have some drinks, potentially get on the podcast, we do have a random, just a limited amount of people that can actually get on the podcast with me for ISM Radio. But you could always come and have some food with us and enjoy the drinks We have a great night there. A lot of business owners get to meet and greet other business owners, and a lot of cool networking goes on. It's a ton of fun. So I have some big news that I've been telling you about studio-wise. You know, we did some decorations. We did some new stuff here in the studio. But I have a new office being built right now. And I had the pleasure of sitting with the owner of the building, the owner of the studio, the guy that created it all. And he, too, has a boat in Oyster Bay. He's a member of CETO. And he's a great fisherman. So, I mean, we hit it off right from the get-go, not only with the fishing, but with the studio and the digital work that we do with the cameras, audio, you name it. This guy built all kinds of incredible sets. I can't wait to show it off to you. I really can't. It's going to be super exciting. And I think that's just 4 weeks away from the big drop. All right, I'm giving you a little tidbit of it here on my podcast because this is my podcast and I can say whatever the fuck I want. So, he was telling me that he was in Oyster Bay, birds are working, fish are jumping out of the water, and it was bass. And you had a bunch of boats that were literally running through the fish, okay? And Greg, one of my buddies in my harbor, who I've had to tow to the dock, which is how I met him, happens to all of us at some point or another. South Shore, you run aground. North Shore, you may need a tow every once in a blue moon. He sent me a text message saying that these trust fund kids on these brand new regulators are driving right through the fish to throw into them. And that drives everybody crazy. All right, so it's important. It's important when the running and gunning is happening. And there are some guys that just don't care. They're out there for this is their 6th trip of the season. And they don't know what to do. They're super excited that they saw a splash and they want to drive right into it and cast over the birds. And, so you guys all know exactly what I'm talking about. It's happened to all of us. I mean, how many times have we been in a fishing area and you see this big 40-foot sea ray just come flying through everybody and wake everybody and being like, oh, I wonder why all these boats have stopped here. I mean, the Googans out there, you guys know exactly what I mean. And I don't rip on anybody individually because, man, I would have a field day. It would be like one of those wavy boats videos that you see them in the inlet sinking their own boats, just stuffing the bow into the waves, whether it be haul over or Boca or, any of the inlets. So I love those videos, but I'm not picking on anybody individually and posting videos of them doing stupid stuff out there. We have other things to talk about and discuss here. So Greg said the trust fund kids on Daddy's regulators were driving right through the fish, and that cracked me up. We pulled up to a bunch of two guys, two older gentlemen, and the minute I saw them on the bow, I knew they were throwing into the birds. I knew the fish were there, and there wasn't really anybody else around. There was one on the boat, a couple of kayakers, and I said to Corey, he's standing on the bow, they're running and gunning, no doubt. What was funny is the whole time we were there, the kids on my boat were saying, yo, how come we're catching and they're not? And I said, I don't know, why don't you ask your dad? Because it was the kids against the adults, and the dads weren't catching and the kids were. And that, to me, was just epic. So, point being, the kids were throwing the NLBNs, 5-inch, crushing it. Greg said they were every cast on a 5-inch NLBN. He was crushing it. So, I got to say, that I don't think that company's been around long. I got to look into it a little bit more. I'm going to show you videos here on the screen that I just shot with my phone on the boat, and you'll see the NLBN in the mouth, and you'll see the ones that we were using. I had bigger ones. I had the 9-inch ones in packages. We didn't even bother opening them up because you got to match the hatch. So it was cool that the dads were snagging some bunker because we were able to see what size they were. I mean, I could have thrown the cast net and filled it up. And I didn't even want to bother because you know what? When you do that, you're going to kill some of those fish for sure. And with the bunker problem that we have, the last thing I want to do is contribute to killing the bunker. But you could have walked across them in the back bays. Now, I told you last week, I was getting videos from people on land as the birds were working in Northport Bay. Okay? The birds have been working every day in Northport Bay, but I don't go and stick around over there because I know what's there. I want to venture out. We go to different areas. So, on a day like today, when it's crappy out, you don't want to make the run. You could go into, your hometown bay, into the area there, and go catch fish in your area on a crappy day. And, when the conditions called for it, we knew we could scoot around. We scooted around. It was like a lake. It was like a lake west of us. And like I said, you could walk across the bunker. There were so many. Now, they weren't on top. They weren't boiling. They weren't, big pods on top. They were down below the surface, but you could see them. You could see, 30, 40 fish just flashing in the water. So when the dads were snagging them, I held one up to show you here. Just so you can see in the video, you can see the size. They are the same exact size as the 6-inch swim shad that the dads were throwing. But the NLBN, the 5-inch, was crushing it. So that's my advice to you this time of the year. Corey even said, do we want to throw some top water out there? And they tried jigging, not as successful. And we didn't see them really blowing up on the top. They really weren't blowing up on the surface. So we stuck to throwing the swim shads and the NLBNs. And it was a very successful trip. Show you some pictures. And, there were some dinks in the mix. There were some 12-inch, small bass too. But, man, these kids hooked up with some monsters that got off. I mean, everything was light tackle. So these rods really, really bend. And some of these rods were bent in half. So that was kind of cool to see. It's always fun. And the dads were pretty proud of their kids, no doubt about it. So, great trip. This week we have a couple of tautog fishing charters scheduled, and we'll be showing you some giant tautog that we pull out of the caves because we're going cave hunting. We want some 10-pounders. It is time to start showing off some 10-pounders, enough of these 5, 6, 7, 8-pound tautog. And you know what I got here, John. You know what's on the set. The cooler made it onto the set. Me and you are going to have our Diet Coke and Pepsi battle for sure. I'm in. You know me, I'm very competitive. So, a few people responded. To we should have a blackfish tournament, have some sort of little competition. There was a decent response, nothing crazy. And I said, let's focus on the fishing club. I have a lot of things going on. There's an office being built, construction's being done. But luckily, I have this beautiful studio that I have here to come into where I do all my radio work. So I can get off the boat on days like today. And we're going to close out the season with a bang, but I really don't see the need to make a competition at the end of the year. That's something that we would have to put a little more planning into it. Jumpin' Jack Bass, you had some great insight. You had a great idea. And I love the hand signal. I won't give away any of the hand signals that we could use in the picture. So that's a great idea. But I think it would be best if everybody had the same measuring device like we did on my striped bass tournament. I did hear from somebody saying that they were fighting over who's getting to keep the tape measure. I got to tell you, I searched high and low for our striped bass invitational to make sure I ordered the best IGFA style tape measure that everybody could use and it be very fair. And man, it came down to close measurement between Chuck and Matt, no doubt about it. So I was super grateful that I did my due diligence to make sure that the measuring device was legit. that there was no skepticism and nobody had anything to say. Oh, no, in the pictures, everybody agreed, even Chuck. He goes, nope, I lost. He sat down at a table next to me in my office to look at the photograph to see how close it was. And he said, nope, Matt won. And it was because of the measuring device. So when we do the blackfish, you can keep these fish. That's the good news. But now I got to organize where the weigh stations are going to be and who's a participating weigh station. You know what I mean? So a little bit of groundwork has to go into the planning of this. So it's something we could plan for next year, where we have the Striped Bass Invitational in June, and we have some sort of a tautog competition, or Bay Rats and Buoys Fishing Club now has tautog competitions against other fishing clubs, which we're super excited about. We really are. It's going to be an awesome 2026. I can tell you that right now. Now, I did put a call into the DC today. I wasn't expecting an answer or a call back prior to or during the podcast. I wouldn't even take the call now to give you some of the intel, even if I could get it over the phone. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with the Manhattan, the bunker. There's a lot going on with the striped bass numbers. There's a lot going on with regulations and green crabs and Asian crabs and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to show up to every meeting that I can. The problem you have on the Facebook groups and whatnot is you're getting stuff from Virginia, you're getting stuff from all different states. And when you read all of that, you're hoping you're talking about the Atlantic, the East Coast and the Atlantic Ocean and the Atlantic numbers, the regulations, the Atlantic regulations. So in certain states, it sucks that things vary. It really does. Because when guys hold up pictures of fish, the keyboard warriors are quick to go after them. But, the guys in California holding up the picture in in an East Coast forum and whatever. So that makes it tough. But I'm going to get to the meetings, get more intel to bring to you here on the podcast. But again, it's something we just have to, it's out of our control, because there's nothing more corrupt than government. We all know that, other than maybe the NFL referees and the NBA referees. It couldn't be any more corrupt either. It's unbelievable, the scandals that are coming forward now, and have always happened. It's been around since sports have begun, since sports began. And the fishing, the government, the regulations, it's the same thing. It really is. You think they have accurate numbers, and you think that they're going to stop commercial fishing guys from catching Manhattan with the money that's greasing the wheels all over the world? There's no way. It's not happening. So I just hope that they don't affect the numbers of the bunker here in our area, and the fish come and feed on them like they always have. This year, I did not see a lot of bunker, but it was super refreshing to see the amount of bunker and the amount of bait that was in the back bays. And I said striped bass, there's bluefish there as much as there's bass. And I would recommend anybody on the North Shore getting into all the back bays. Doesn't matter where you are. All the way from Port Washington to Mount Sinai. Get into your back bays. The bait is back there. The harbors. Did you see the video I put up of the underwater camera? That camera was in the harbor. I like dropping it in the harbor in certain areas because it's protected, and I know where it's visible that no one's going to pick it up and run away with a GoPro. Who cares? You know what I mean? What are you losing if they did? You're losing the footage. So I love dropping the GoPro in certain areas. The squid fishing has started in the harbors. The water temperature is it's perfect. So now the bass are going to come in feeding on the squid. So forget about it. This is the best time of the year to fish. It really is. So I can't wait to close out the season really hard. I actually can't wait to pull my boat out of the water and fix a few things and just clean it up and get it put away for the winter. I hate the cold weather. So I hate waiting, because I'm such a diehard salty mofo that I hate waiting all the way to the end. Like the rest of you guys and girls. You guys are salty mofos. And I like to stick it out to the end. So when I was talking to Tom on the business podcast at Ohika Castle, he was telling me he's got to be out of his marina by November 15th. He's in Oyster Bay. And I said, yeah, that's pretty normal for everywhere. The launches are going to stop. You got to look at what time the launch stops. The fuel dock next to me, Windcoat, the greatest fuel dock. The fuel dock that I absolutely get all my gas and ice from. I love going there. Rich and Will and Charlotte and Declan and Shannon, and some of them are gone already. They've already gone to college, but the guys that are left behind, like Charlotte and Will were there this week. Rich, he's the best, and I always give them a shout out. I really do. But they shut down on the 15th. I think 15th is the last working day to get gas. So I'll fill the boat up on the 15th. I use what I'm doing. There's always a half a tank gas. I hate leaving the harbor without having a lot of gas. Seriously. Would I leave with a half a tank? Absolutely, depending on, I know where I'm going. If I was just going to go run around and shoot to Connecticut and run here and go there, I want to make sure I got enough gas. That's just me. I'm the same way in the truck. Truck's half full. I think it's empty. So there's no fuel light coming on. So the launches are going to close, if they didn't already, okay? The harbors still have a lot of boats in them. I can't believe it. I really can't. And the fuel docks are going to shut down. And there are some that stay open. So you can get gas, going into November and December. So I'm just saying that the dock that I go to next to my marina at Windcoat is shutting down on the 15th. Just giving you a heads up in Huntington. But yeah, the harbor's packed with squid. And I'm not dirtying up my boat. I'll go on somebody else's boat if you want to go squid fishing. But I'm not taking my boat and getting it all inked up. It's not happening. I keep my boat clean. Like, this studio is immaculate right now. I keep the studio clean. My truck, you can eat off the floor. It's immaculate. Oh, and that's another thing. Cool. I was sitting with Stefan, the owner of King's Hydro Detailing, and at the ISM radio podcast at Ohika Castle. And I tell you that because I'm getting getting something nice done to the truck. And I was talking to him, telling him about it. And it's a service that he offers. So how great is that? That's what I mean. It's all about networking. And sure enough, he posted a picture on Instagram, and another captain reached out to me today with a screenshot. He's like, I never would have known that you do this. And he's like, that's my guy. He's like, Stefan is great. He does all my tinting. He handles all my tinting for everything. And he does a lot more than just tinting, so you can check them out too. It's kingshydrodetailing.com. And if you want to come to Ohika, I think our next date is going to be November 18th. So if you want to come to Ohika and potentially get on the podcast, it's very limited. I have limited availability for how many people I can podcast with that evening. But, there'll be 30, 40 people that show up to the, executive networking event to network with other business owners and have some drinks. And it's from like 6 to 9. It's a lot of fun. But a lot of big things happening. The new studio the new office is being built in the studio, another studio. So I'm super excited. I'm excited for Bay Rats and Buoys and the Fishing Club. I'm excited you guys tune in every week. I get people asking me, is it going up Thursday, Friday, what time? They listen to it on the way home. So hopefully I get it up in time today for the guys that are leaving work, leaving the city, and want to listen to it. I love you guys. I thank you for tuning in every week. Remember, I told you this is the best time of the year to head on over to nauticalschool.com, the website. Visit them. They will be at the Ward Melville Fishing Show. They're going to be at the boat show at the Javits Center. But you want to be enrolled in a class by then. Now's a good time. There's a class happening like November 5th at one of the locations here on Long Island. So you have to go check out at nauticalschool.com the dates that they have already set and enroll yourself in one of the classes. You can get your captain's license in just 9 days, and there's no better place to do it than nauticalschool.com. So, that's a wrap for episode 55. This was awesome. Get out there, catch the bass and the blues. They're in the bays. They're blowing up. Tog fishing is lights out right now. I can't wait to take the tog fishing charters out next week. As soon as this wind dies down, I think we're going to have a decent window on the weekend here. The next few days, we do have some high winds. Hopefully, Melissa makes a turn and gets, heads west. Heads east. Get out of here. Don't head west. Don't come towards the East Coast. Head west and get out of here after it passes Bermuda. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. We love you. I will work on a raffle for next month, I should say, because next week is November. I'll probably raffle it off in the middle of the month so that I give you guys 2 weeks to enter your name and get involved. But we're going to do it with sharing this podcast, all right? You guys listen. You guys are awesome, and you have friends that you go fishing with. Share the podcast with them. That is the best way for me to spread the word, is word of mouth. When people tell you, but when I call up my buddy Kenny, I say, hey, listen, send this over to your buddy George. He would love to hear it. It's a great thing. Tune in. George is going to listen because Kenny's telling him, hey, check this out. Even Lisa said, I was looking for a new podcast and I came across it on the internet. This is awesome. And, she entered her name in to win the raffle. And I wish she would have won it. Her and Chris killed it on the blackfish. They crushed it. So, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Episode 55 is in the books. Wishing you guys bent rods, tight lines. And I'll see you out on the water. Captain Gage signing off. Over and out.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Bay Rats and Buoys. Be sure to visit sandcitycharter.com and follow Captain Gage on all our social media channels.